questions.
If I may, what can't we ask questions about? Or I guess we'll get told
Well, I agree, yeah.
wherever we ask them?
Yeah.
Okay. Sir?
No, that's all right. I was invited here a couple of weeks ago and asked to come clarify what was going on with the Public Health Department pending the outcome of the Illinois Attorney General's office coming down and looking things over to just kind of feel out where we're at. Right now, there are still some pending things standing out there that we can't really discuss, but if at all possible, if we can discuss it, I'm more than willing to discuss it. Our staff has served this area for over a couple decades now. We're happy to serve. Members of the staff, you just really won't find people more giving, more loving, more compassionate that I've had the privilege of working with. So I would like to say, you know, under the conditions, it's very easy to sometimes second guess yourself or question as to why you do things. But the real truth of the matter is, you can't really question things that are wrong and just look at innuendos, top-line facts, whatever you want to call it, opinions. So that's what I think Mr. Bowen wanted to afford you, the board members, the ability to say, hey, what's going on with this or what's going on with that. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Doug, I'll jump in. The solar panels are a big topic. Is that something that is within this FOIA request, or is it something that can be talked about?
That's currently not a FOIA issue, so I'm assuming we can talk about it. I know a lot of questions have been risen of, is it legal? Did you know you had to do this? Did you know you have to do that? Did you know there was an employee related to whoever owns the company or one of the owners of the company? All those things are very, very important, and we had to go through this process following laws. We were advised that we did not have to go out and get bids. We called around and said, hey, is there anyone else that can do this work here? Anyone locally, because we like to do the work locally. We found someone, we put a bid in the paper 7 days prior to the awarding of the bid, and then we chose someone. Unfortunately, what has happened is the big picture has not been looked at, and that is, why do you want solar power? What's solar power going to do for you? Well, solar power is going to lower our utility bills through time. Solar power will pay for itself, or in our case, pay for a portion of it. And we were in a fortunate situation where we had one company that could offer us $60,000 worth of grants, and a second company that could offer us $30,000 worth of grants. So I would like to refocus, the decisions that the board was faced at. We're trying to, as costs keep escalating and the revenues are decreasing, we're ultimately trying to save the taxpayers money, and that's why the decision was made to do the solar.
Okay, 2 questions out of that. You were told that you didn't have to put it out for bid by
the Iroquois County State's Attorney.
Okay. And is the solar panel beginning to pay for itself?
Our kilowatt hours have come down, unless, through the winter, if the temperature is really different comparatively. But still, the kilowatt hours are coming down. We've always been on a levelized pay plan, so that is starting now to come down. And then also we just had the solar, it's called SREX, it's solar renewable energy credits, and we can get paid for those by how much carbon offset, I believe, that we save the environment. So those are just sold on the open market. So however much kilowatt we have produced, that's what we get paid for. So that'll help pay for the system itself as well.
The recommendation by Mr. Devine, was that a phone call or is that a document somewhere that?
Nope, it was a phone call.
Anybody else? Dave?
Doug, you mentioned that you put a notice in the paper 7 days and never awarded the bid.
Yes.
Is that common practice to be that short?
I don't know. From what it was explained to us is that we don't even have to put anything out for bid. So there weren't really rules. I think the board and myself just wanted to do a bid just to make sure we were getting the product we wanted and getting it at a fair price.
So did you get competitive bids?
We received one local bid, yes.
And was it? It wasn't something that you wanted to.
It wasn't, the solar panels themselves, they weren't as strong as the solar panels from the other company. They weren't warranted as long, and their, the grant that we got for them wasn't, it was going to be less than half of what we went with CMS Renewables.
So how soon do you expect to have some assessment of the value of putting those panels in?
Okay, I'm not
I
following.
mean, you've got your kilowatt hours are coming down,
Yes,
but you haven't really made an assessment of how much they're coming down, how much that's going to save you?
no, not yet.
Yeah. How soon do you expect to do
Probably within a year.
that?
I mean, from what I understand, it takes a couple of years to look over. The seasons have to average temperature-wise to get somewhat of an apples-to-apples comparison, if you will. So,
Who set the standards on what solar panels you would get? Like, you can't just have one solar panel, somebody had to come up with that. Is it the engineering company?
well, we had also discussed solar panels with individual at Kankakee Community College. Not so much panels, but power themselves, and he gave us a couple of insights of websites we could go for education and look at what one panel does versus another type of panel. So we could kind of look and compare durability, look and see how much photovoltaic energy was put out of them by kilowatt hour. In other words, how strong they were and how much energy they produced.
And how much was that project?
Overall, it was $122,000 with a $60,000 grant, so it netted out to $60,000.
So you wouldn't use an engineering company on a project to that scale? I think we have to. And if it's over 25,000, I thought you had to get competitive bids and have a bid opening at a specific time and a specific date.
You do by state statutes. There's nothing that was found at the time, nor that I've been made aware of at this time, of anything that says a local health department has to follow X, Y, and Z protocol. We're not a state government.
You don't get money from the government?
Sure.
Well, if you get a dime from the government, doesn't that make you a government entity and have to follow the same rules and everything that a government entity does?
Like I said, there's nothing that's written other than a state law that states have to follow to do bids. So when we were given that advice, the advice we were given, we followed.
Was it an employees company the one that got the bid,
Yes.
and they happened to deal on that?
It's not the employee's company, it's the employee's spouse.
To me, that's the same thing.
Sure.
Okay, and then when you determine what type of panel it was, you see where the flag comes up that you picked a specific type that that specific person has. over somebody that's down the road 20 miles. And if you didn't get an engineer, it's your best opinion on doing your internet research, that is the best animal. I mean, that's just, I could say the other one's better, and you could say that, and we'd have to have a little battle. That didn't happen. That's part of the problem too. The company that you pick has an inside track by knowing you personally. Kind of make sense? You see where that would send up a huge flag to everybody?
Yes, but we're also members of a small community and people are related to one another. And that part of it, what people do for their livelihoods, I mean, we don't really have control over that.
And I do believe, I mean, some of these issues, there will be answers for questions in there. I mean, at some point, tonight's not the forum to go into speculation in great detail because some of this is still, I know specifically solar panels aren't part of this, but I do believe we're touching on an area of areas that go into management discretion, and there are issues about what can be paid by a government entity, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be perhaps come out in litigation, so I think we're getting awful close to where the Iroquois County piece
It's my point is the common sense aspect of it.
But I know what you're saying, Randy, but I think right now that we're getting awfully close to what's being litigated or potentially litigated in Iroquois County. And actually, I mean, this is here for a public forum, but it's not a deposition.
It was all going to go that way. So
Well, and there, I mean, there will.
I've never had a chance to ask questions. Only thing I know is what I read in the paper.
Sure, and I understand that. And again, and I haven't been representing the case was filed in Iroquois County, so Mr. Devine's handling the case over there, but out of respect for the case that's pending in Iroquois County, I don't think we should go too far into some of these issues. It's not that you won't get the answers, it's just, this probably isn't the right form for it.
Since I haven't gotten the right newspaper, what are the issues here? Beyond the
Right now, the issues, and I don't want to speak for any groups here, but right now, the issues are that what's pending before the Iroquois County Court is a number of FOIA requests and the anticipation perhaps, or the belief is that from the FOIA requests, based on information they received under the Freedom of Information Act, that there could possibly be litigation. Again, I'm not guaranteeing that, but that's the potential, and if that's the case, it's in Mr. Corbett's best interest, or perhaps even the court's best interest, that everything discussed here tonight that may come out in litigation at a later time.
so really anything that is or may be involved in those FOIA pursuits,
Probably should.
we don't want.
I should probably stay clear of, because like I said, otherwise we are creating a forum where he's making statements that really without this point, without legal representation, because I don't represent Mr. Corbett on the FOIA request Mr. Devine is.
Pretty well limits the,
It does.
Don't limit it, it eliminates it.
well, same.
Because we don't know what those are, so we
Yep.
can't.
What else? I guess I have one question on the FOIA request. Is there any idea you can give me on how many FOIA requests have been given to you, and if so, how many man-hours those have taken to fill?
That's
I mean, the
a
amount-
matter
the
that
number.
was discussed this morning.
And that's public
At
record,
court.
the amount. I don't know the number exactly, but maybe Mr. Corbett does, but that's public record. So if you know the number, I don't know if you know the number offhand.
As far as staff wages from October 1 through April 30th of 2012, for comparison, we looked at $647 put into Freedom of Information Act versus the same time period this year from October 2012 through April 30th, 2013. Staff wages $79.17. Supplies from 2012, $344. Supplies during 2013, $1,263. There's $139 postage, and then we had $1,958 of attorney fees. So last year, during this same exact time period, we expended $1,079. This time period, this year, we've expended $12,447. So it is quite substantial, the difference in the number of FOIAs. I've got FOIAs from all kinds of different places. We've got FOIAs from banks because they have to find out what kind of septic systems and things are underground. So it's pretty common that we receive FOIAs all the time, but not to this degree.
And the lawyer expense was for, so maybe we had to do a FOIA request, or?
Well, the Board of Health wanted to hire an attorney to protect what we were going to do, and that was to go into Indiana. Was also going to protect the Public Health Department, because at the time it wasn't felt as though that you can have a state's attorney representing you and at the same time trying to prosecute you, because it's a conflict of interest. So
So the attorney fees weren't just for the FOIA request, they were for other things too?
yes,
I'm
they-
understanding it for the FOIA request. The way it was just said, is it directly linked to that?
That was only FOIA requests.
yeah,
Pardon me?
That was only for FOIA requests.
Have you fulfilled all the FOIA requests then?
we are, we feel as though we have fulfilled them all with the exception of one that we were asking for clarification on that particular question before we could do anything to fulfill it. So yes.
Are your man hours included in all those figures that you gave me?
No, that's just time spent only on that one department under FOIA, man hours.
Have you had to bring on other people to fulfill those, or are you taking from one department to assist another?
Exactly. We have to borrow personnel from 2 different departments in order to fill them, and then they go back to their regular jobs.
So you've diminished your services to some extent.
To some extent, it is very, very difficult to navigate through a day, or especially through a project. Pending every time you get a FOIA request, you have to stop doing what you're doing and move mentally, and also move some resources to get it taken care of.
Don't you charge for a piece of paper for FOIA request?
No, it depends. Usually, if they come in, the first 50 pages are free. So, other than that, they're 15 cents a page. We can charge that, provided we make that known up front, and then whoever's going on says, yes, we agree to $20, then they go ahead and get what they want, and then we send them a bill.
Is that standard for what that should cost for paper and time?
That's a state standard for
The
paper.
first 50 cents, the first 50 pages?
That's a state, yes. You can't deviate from it. You can't charge man hours. You can't charge the time it takes to look for a document. It's very, very specific on things you can charge for.
What else?
How many times a year you've been audited? How many times or whatever?
We get audited by a myriad of different federal and state agencies every year. And then every 3 to 5 years, we'll go through an in-depth audit. And every time we get audited, it's not a full forensic audit, but they do like a micro forensic audit where they pull documents because they have to see whether they pass, tests that they send documentation through to make sure that we're doing stuff correctly. So at any point in the period of 34 years, we've never failed one of those situations where we've been audited and they're like, hey, time out, you guys are doing this all wrong and we're going to pull your grants from you. Yes, we've always had little bits and pieces of things through an audit here and there, but never anything that's being proposed, in my opinion anyway.
So in 34 years, you've never had an abnormality, line stopper for an audit issue?
You mean as far as a red flag saying
Yeah,
Willis
stop the
out?
services.
No. And the audits are there for a good reason. I mean, we all go through them.
Gentleman back there brought up something about a loan, can we talk about that?
Who brought the loan?
To the private, to let it work for you?
It's to a private foundation.
I believe it's FOIA. It's been requested, correct? That's information that has been.
Well, it's already out in the public domain, the documents, the checks, everything. It's all public record.
So there was a loan given to an employee or somebody with tax
But
dollars?
that was still part of the case. It's not,
the
that's
case.
prior to the case?
Not part of the case that's pending, no, sir.
Okay.
So there wasn't a loan given?
There's a Fort Iroquois Public Health Foundation. It's got nothing to do with an employee that runs it or anything else. It's completely autonomous. They need seed money to get started, which they pay back, and I understand that the only reason they paid it back is because the Edgar County folks have found that, which is simply not true. I mean, we had a signed document and had an agreement with the Board of Health of here's what we want to do to make the situation better for taxpayers so we can provide services. Is it all right to go ahead and do this? That's why we did it. It was simply to help people because there's a lot of things that we get grants for that we, for example, we can't go out and buy cribs for babies. But through that foundation, we can.
So the foundation borrowed the money from the Department of Health?
Yes.
And that was intended just to be seed money for the foundation.
Yes.
How much, what does it amount to?
$1,000.
And the foundation was already legally established?
Well, that was to pay for, you have to pay fees and everything to go with the IRS and to go with the Attorney General's office in Illinois. Then you also have to pay registration fees in Iroquois County and Ford County. There's an application fee to submit to become a tax exempt organization, so that's why the money was.
How is the foundation, how is it getting money now?
It's receiving it through private donations. One of the things we're working on right now is we've got the project coming up is Kids for Cribs. One of the things we're doing for that is we are teaming up with Miller Circus and we're selling tickets to Miller Circus and we receive anywhere from 8 to 20% of the proceeds. The foundation is a donation. So once that foundation raises $2,500, this grant that they are looking at doing will match it and give us a $5,000 grant so we can go out and buy cribs.
So, I don't mean to seem like an asshole, but the foundation is self-supporting now. Back to the common sense issue, why didn't you get foundation people to donate money for that $1,000 instead of borrow it from a government entity or something that receives taxpayer dollars just to keep this kind of questioning from happening? Because I've been involved in setting that stuff up before. We got donations. We didn't dip into anybody's pockets. That we didn't come and ask the county board to fund it or the city or anything. We went out and raised our own money up front. And we got lawyers to donate their time to set up the 501c3 and all that. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, everything we're doing here seems like it's coming back to common sense. Some of these things, you don't give money to somebody out of somebody else's pile of money. I mean,
And Randy, we can,
I know.
I think we can sit here and argue that you would have done it different than Dave, and I would have done it different than Dave.
You just can't do that with taxpayer money. That's the second common sense thing. You can't award a bid to anybody that's related to anybody that works for you, especially with $100,000 or more. Those are just things you can't do. That's got to be written somewhere.
Let's move on.
So,
Sorry. What else? Doug, is your door open to anybody that wants to come up and visit with you on any of these specifics?
Absolutely.
And the crick thing's a great idea, don't get me wrong, I just put the rooms up on
I would encourage any of you to call Doug and go up and chat with him.
And it's safe to say that any grants that the Fort Iroquois County Health Board receives has guidelines. And then there's auditors that come back and audit that grant and your disbursements to see that you've been going in the right direction in the disbursements of that money.
Yeah, we have to be able to show that we expended the money. First of all, it starts with a budget that they have to approve and what you're going to purchase for the year in advance. And then you have to show through receipts that, yes, you followed that plan.
And that has never been a question from any of the auditors about these grants at all.
Oh, I'm sure through 34 years, there's
Well,
always
I
a
know,
question
but,
of,
yeah.
what did you do here, what did you do there?
I'm talking about since the last 10 years since you've been here.
No.
There's been no problem.
No.
And that's with the state and any other audit that's taken place?
One of the larger grants we had was the flood grant, the Iroquois County flood grant that we received. That was all done through the federal government, and we had to call and or visit with them weekly in order to get checks approved, and some of those checks were, well, you can imagine flood damage to someone's property. Some of those checks are enormous, tens of thousands of dollars. So that advisory board had to have that okay, and then us internally, once it was okay, we were able to disperse money. So, yeah, they watched everything.
Well, West Wing over here pretty quiet. Got anything, guys?
Same enough.
Okay. Anything else? I'm going to go back to the foundation real quick, Randy. When was the foundation set up?
About a year and a half ago.
Let's end on a positive note. What's going on good?
All kinds of good things are going on. Our census counts and home health are up, so we're able to, go out and help more people that need help. In our elderly population, we're in the middle of re-signing grant agreements with the state. Whether or not they execute those contracts on time remains to be seen, as well as the payment being done for those on time. But right now, the only cloud that's hanging over us is our breast and cervical program. The state may or may not discontinue that program as they're trying to save money. So obviously that would be a negative impact, but other than that, all monies are flowing well.
You've had some health fairs, and I think maybe you have some future health fairs planned.
Yes, we're trying to do a kids health fair with the rising rates of obesity and with kids going into athletics. We think it'd be really neat if we had a situation where we could partner up with the hospital and a couple other health entities and go out and do a fair and teach kids how to, stretch before exercise or before sporting events, how to hydrate themselves, how to eat right, all those things. But instead of just speaking to them, we wanted to actually be able to go out and teach and by tell, show, do process, so they see the difference on what happens to your body, how you feel mentally, emotionally when you eat right versus when you eat junk food and fast food. So, yeah, we've got that on the horizon. We've got the Iroquois County Fair on the horizon. The Ford County Fair is coming up this summer, so we've got quite a few events going on.
How many nurses do you have traveling the roadways?
Well, just for the home health program, we've got 5 for that one program. So they service all the way from Gibson all the way up north, cover both counties.
I'm a District 2 rep, and I have a lot of my constituents that utilize your services because there's not a lot of health care available in those very, very small areas. And I, for one, have gotten a lot of calls commending your services and everything else. I wanted to truly thank you guys because I have some people that are very scared and health is a big issue to them, and they don't know that they can stay in their homes without your health care services. And right now, our small towns don't need a lot of empty homes. If these people have to move out of their homes because of lack of health care, that's going to hurt us all in my area. And I truly would like to thank you and your services provided to a lot of my constituents. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. It's been absolutely our pleasure to go out and do it. It's one thing to see people go to work every day. It's another thing to see people go to work every day with their arms full of clothes or diapers or teddy bears and things like that. No one really sees. We all follow the dollars and cents, but when you see employees that are that compassionate to come in because they know we can't give money or the health department can't, and they truly care that much about people, that's an honor and a privilege working with people like that. So they deserve all the credit in the world for their character.
Well, board members, I really encourage you to go up and talk to Deb. Randy, you've got some concerns and some good questions. Get up there and talk to him. So if there's nothing else, any further questions, if there isn't any, Doug, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.